Peter Pan works wonderfully as a live performance because there are magical elements in it. And to see those played out live in front of you is perhaps more exciting than seeing them on screen. It was certainly originally written to be staged.
Really what we wanted to do was to restore the play to its status as a brilliant piece of art, brilliant piece of work that it was in 1904, but with 21st century technology. And Bill Dudley is obviously a world expert in using this CGI, in the integration of CGI and live theatre, realised that the inner walls of the tent are the perfect projection screen.
When I was first brought on board to design the show, I was shown drawings of the tent, and what was marvellous about it was it was not based on poles supporting the tent. It was entirely suspended from overhead gantries.
The designer on the show looked at that tent and went, wow, you know, I can do 360 CGI projection, which would be amazing.
I wanted to bring the colour and the movement, the animation particularly, of CGI into live theatre. Looking back, we had no knowledge of a previous attempt at this, a full 360 continuous projection movie with live actors. So it was certainly a gamble at the time. I had blind faith in it.
Kensington Gardens is where J.M. Barrie met the Llewellyn Davis children. They inspired him to create the characters that we love in Peter Pan. And this is where the very first stories about Peter Pan are set. When William Dudley, our designer, wandered around, he was overwhelmed at just how much seemed to come from Kensington Gardens.
And I looked for clues, and one of the things I found was literally by the side of the palace where Princess Di lived up until her death was a statue of King William III from the 1690s, the character, and it's Captain Hook. It looks exactly like every presentation of Hook. It certainly looks like Dustin Hoffman as Hook. It's got the full big hat and the bandanas and the cuffs and the swords and pistols. And I think he could have, it was so close to the round pond, he could have thought, ah, there's my baddie, there's Captain Hook. Wandering around the park, I came to what is called the Italian Gardens at the end of the Serpentine. It's a sort of crescent-shaped lake. And it's a set of fountains inside an Italian-style Baroque handrail. And when you stand in the middle of it with these fountains, you feel like you're on a ship. And behind you, towards the street side of the park, was a pavilion. I thought, that's Captain Hook's cabin, because it had this Italian, if you think of Pirates of the Caribbean type cabin doors, it all was laid out there, and in front was what looked like a quarterdeck. And along the Baroque balustrades were circular portholes that cannon could run out from. Most mysterious of all, I thought, this is where he thought of, that's Hook's ship. I walked to the front because I could see at the far end where the gardens end and the lake begins. I saw what I thought to be a figurehead. When I got closer, it was mermaids on a rock. And as we know, there's a mermaid rock in the story. And I thought, this is it. This is where they played lots of the scenes.
We do it in the round, which is terribly important because children play in the round. If you think about kids playing in a playground, they don't line up and face one way. If there's a fight in a playground, two kids would fight and their audience would naturally form a circle around them. And we found that terribly useful. The first thing we did in rehearsals and developing the script was tape out a circle. And immediately that felt like, from the very first moment, felt like a great way of telling the story.
The next challenge was to create an equally impressive musical score for the show, including the accompaniment to the epic flight from the children's nursery across Edwardian London to Neverland.
We realised that the way the design of the show was developing was that it was going to be quite an epic production, and that we felt that we needed a really big score. We approached Ben Valfish, who is, quite frankly, musical royalty in the UK.
Yeah, one of the most fantastic things about being lucky enough to write music for a living is that you're often presented with challenges which you've never come across before. For a long time, I've been very inspired by the incredible depth in J.M. Barrie's book. I knew that in order to match the scale of that experience musically, we had to do something which was incredibly thematic, you know, a theme which is very simple, very memorable, you know, something which is very sort of emotionally honest. Obviously, when you're writing for the CGI sequences, they're fixed, and so you're basically scoring film. And so I approached that in a very cinematic way, much the same way as I'd write a film score. Then, of course, the underscore was completely different because it was underneath dialogue, which in every night the dialogue was going to be slightly different, and that would slow things down or speed things up. You know, you never know what will happen because it's live performance, and that's quite exciting. So I had to sort of create sequences of music which could at any point be slightly changed, timing-wise.
Insolent, conceited youth, prepare me thy doom!
For example, in the final battle between Hook and Peter, that cue, which is a continuous piece of music to the audience, is actually in about 5 different sections. And it's designed so that after a certain amount of minimum time, which we know basically that's the quickest a particular thing could happen in, it could then last however long it needed to until the next thing is cued. And that was a real challenge to make it work musically but also technically.
You want Peter Pan dead?